Hi everybody, welcome to the lab. Today I've been looking at videos and stuff on YouTube for a while, of course, and I see that a lot of people are very interested in tea dyeing and coffee dyeing papers, and so I've been playing around and I have found a way that I like to do it. These are coffee dyed papers, and I'm going to show you a very quick, easy way to make these beautiful papers, and you can use them in all kinds of ways, and we'll talk about that too. So, but the first thing I did was I put some warm water in this Tupperware container. It is actually a Tupperware brand, but anyway, so that's just clean water in there, and in my experiments so far, I don't think it makes that much of a difference whether it's warm or cold when you're using it, but I'm starting off with warm. And I have some paper, which I've cut into 8.5 by 6 sheets, which I use to make signatures in my journals. And this paper is cotton paper. I couldn't tell you exactly what kind, because I got it in an estate sale like this in a cut-off box, and it's cut weird and everything, but I got it because it was a lot of neat cotton paper. I only know it's cotton because when you hold it up to the light, there's a watermark. So, anyway, but I think you can use all kinds of papers. I don't think it really matters, but that's what I'm using now. So, this is 3 sheets I think I got here, and then some scraps. And what I'm going to do, and this is so easy, is to start this off, I'm working on this surface, but I'm also working on freezer paper. And I have the plastic side down and the papery side up. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to plop one of these sheets of paper in the water, which has actually cooled off quite a bit. So, and then the next thing that I did in my first experiment was I took some instant coffee that I got at the dollar store. This is dollar store instant coffee. And I just put a little bit in my hand, and I sprinkled a little bit onto the paper. That's how I started. And I didn't let that sit for a long time. And I just kind of, you see what that happens when you do that. And then I would add more paper and more paper, you know, and as you add the coffee, of course, the water will get darker and darker. And what I learned from that is that it was kind of better just to go ahead and dump some coffee in there and make it nice and dark to start with. Which is probably why the warm water is better, because it would probably melt that coffee faster and make it smoother. But it really does not matter. What you're trying to do is just get a little bit of color onto your sheet. This is what happens when you first start out. When you have a bunch of coffee in here and it's really nice and dark and all those little things are melted, then you can just run sheets of paper through as much as you want, and you know, you can add a little more coffee, add a little more water, you can put this away, you can close it up and save it for tomorrow. If you want to, put it in the refrigerator if you want it to last longer. So now, without even leaving it in here that long, and this isn't even that strong, I'm going to put more in because I would like it stronger. But that's dollar store coffee, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. It's going to dissolve. So, at any rate, so all I do now is I take this out and I lay it onto the freezer paper like so, and I take some of this little bitty coffee stuff and I do a little sprinkling of it on there like that. Am I staying in the thing? Let me move it down a little. Oh no, I won't, because it's stuck now. Not permanently, but okay. So then you can kind of rinse your hands in your coffee, which is, and then you can save your paper towels that you use to wipe your hands on, because you never know, they might make an interesting something as well. So then I play with it. Like I just, those little bits are melting and I just play around with it. And, which is kind of fun. You can do fingerprints and handprints and, it's going to dry a little differently. It's going to dry a little lighter. I like to turn it over onto the paper and do things on the back. Whatever you want to do. You can add more of the little coffee grounds and make streaks. You can do whatever you want. And then when you get it to where you think it's going to be neat, you can either let it dry. I haven't noticed a big huge difference in letting this dry versus blow drying it, but I prefer blow drying. I just like blow drying it. I am not going to do that right now because that's loud. You guys know what I mean when I say to blow dry something. You just hit it with a blow dryer for a little while, and then you can take the next sheet and you can do stuff with that if you want, just to play. Also, as you blow dry your freezer paper as well, and but you can do this, and it really won't be long. And you see how dark this is coming out. It just takes getting enough of that instant coffee in there, and it's coming out really nice and dark, which I like. I mean, you may like a lighter paper. I know there are people who are doing, who are drying these in the oven, like 3 or 4 sheets at a time or whatever, and that's great. That's a great technique because it does get you a crispy little darker edge around here. That's really neat. And that's one way you can do it, and there's lots of videos about doing that. But this is just my little spin. This is my take on this. I like to do this. It's fun to do. You can do whatever you want and just play, like I said. So I sit here and I play with my colors and I play with my stuff, and then I blow dry everything. And here's another thing that I like to do. This makes it kind of interesting, is I take a piece and I just scrunch it up like that. Okay. And then you just do the same thing, and you put it in the water, in the coffee water, which smells wonderful. You have to like coffee for this craft. You have to like coffee because it will smell like coffee for a long time. Everywhere it will smell like coffee. So anyway, so you can see this one is going to turn out with some interesting cracks in it. And so there's all kinds of things that you can do with these kind of papers, and one of the things I'm going to show you. But after you blow dry these, I want to show you what I ended up with, because I blow dry the papers, and of course I have a whole stack of these beautiful papers, and they are really fun to use. They have a really nice texture. Here's the ones these are dried, and these are the ones that were crunched up, the 2 that were crunched up, and how neat are those. And these are really fun for making things for your junk journals and your art journals and little envelopes. I have these little envelopes and things that I've just been making little things and envelopes at this point. But another thing that you can do, and this is really cool, because when you're done blow drying all this, you are also blow drying the freezer paper. So if you've been doing this for a while and you get as many sheets done as I just showed you, what you will end up with is freezer paper that looks like this, which is really cool. And when it's blow dried, it's nice and dry on this side now, and we're on this is the paper side, so when you flip it over, you still have the plastic side, and that's all good back there. And what you can do with that, and I'm not going to show you how to do this because there's a lot of videos on how to do this, but I'm going to show you what I did and tell you how I did it. This is a piece of the freezer paper, and when you flip it over, this is a napkin. And just very briefly, there are videos, look for videos of fusing napkins onto freezer paper, and you will find out how to do that, because it's basically what you do is you have to separate the napkin. I'll show you really quickly, because you have to separate, I have another napkin here. You have to separate the napkin, and use only the piece that has the color on it, and set the other pieces aside for whatever, which I've done with this. I also want to dip this in the stuff. You can actually dip this in the coffee as well, which I'm going to do in a second, but you got to be really careful with the napkins because they're so thin. But so when you have a napkin peeled off, then it's just a question of turning the freezer paper over onto the ironing board and laying the napkin out on there and getting a piece of parchment paper and laying it over. So you don't want to get anything on the iron, and parchment paper is great for you. Just cover it with parchment paper and iron it on a medium heat, and it will adhere to the freezer paper. So I made this piece here with the napkin, which will be a signature in one of my journals. Plus I've made these the little bags and things from the paper, and I've made tags from the paper, from the freezer paper. So anyway, so that was a little thing. And then I want to try this just once. I'm going to try this. This is difficult, and I usually do it with much smaller pieces, but that's another thing about this way of doing it. You can just keep a little thing of this beside you in your workspace and dip like little pieces in there and do them in a big hurry. So this is going to be difficult. I probably should have cut this a little bit because it's so fragile. I'm just going to lay it out here on top of all the others so you can see that it is possible to do this. I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm not going to let it dry like this because I fear that it might actually stick. But so anyway, you can see there all the kind of different oh, that's kind of interesting happening there. Ooh, I love experiments. And so that was a very easy way to coffee dye paper. You don't have to do as many spots. You can do it as light as you want. You can put it in the oven on a low heat if you want to, but look for the videos that really explain how to do that, because you have to be careful with that. Obviously, you're putting something in the oven. So anyway, I'm looking around to see if there was anything else that I wanted to show about this today, but I think that's it. So, very quick, easy way using instant coffee to make beautiful papers to work with in your junk journaling and your art journaling, especially if you're doing an aged journal, you know, something with the vintage look. So, hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Bettina Makeley, aka Fairy Web Mother. Have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, morning, middle of the night, whenever you are watching this. Please, please, please remember to choose love in all you do, and have a good one. Bye now.